Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. So, let me explain what's happening here. Back in 2016, when He Who Shall Not Be Named was inaugurated, I decided that I didn't want to have anything to do with watching that abomination of politics. And instead, what I did was I got on Facebook and I did a live reading of my book, Shero. Now, Shero was the first book I ever had published. Wasn't the first book I wrote, that was A Blade Away. Shero was the first book I ever had published. And Shero is a superhero series about a transgendered superhero. So it's slightly autobiographical in that I'm a superhero. Now, I don't mean to make light of what's happening, because I think if you're here and you know me and you know what I write, you know where I stand on the political spectrum. And I'm not going to make this about politics, other than the fact that I'm here to serve as a distraction for you during this moment in time. So what I'm going to do is, instead of reading Shero, the first Shero book, I'm going to read the second Shero book, Shero 2, Zombie A Go-Go. Now, before I get into this, I want to explain a little bit, because you're probably going to wonder, what in the heck is going on here? Well, by the time the second Shero book came around, the narrator in the book had become a character. And the character commented on the reader, the action, the story, the characters, and even the writer. The narrator made fun of me. Needless to say, the Shero series was incredibly fun to write. Maybe someday I'll go back to them, I don't know. It'd be interesting to do that, because it's been so long since I've done that. To see how things would change, because my writing has certainly changed. At least I hope it has. Anyway, you're not here to hear me blather on. You want to get to the gist of it. So let's dive in to Shero 2, Zombie A Go-Go. Are you ready for this? Let's get to chapter 1. Chapter 1. Yarg! Killswitch stared through the 6-inch plexi plate that stood between him and his newest experiment. Blarg! The sounds coming from the outer side of the window were gruesome. But it wasn't just the sounds. Oh no, if only. The sights looked as though they were pulled directly from Dr. Frankenstein's wet dreams. A fiendish, goggled mad doctor hovering over a too-ripe, reanimated corpse. Fortunately for the fiend, the corpse was bound tight. Gwarg! He knew it was a hideous idea, but hideous was what he did best. And Killswitch did relish pain and a good dastardly plan, especially when said dastardly plan involved much mayhem, chaos, and the possible destruction of the newly formed Sentinel. You'll need to read Shero 1 to get what I'm talking about. You remember Sentinel from the first book, don't you? No? Well, maybe now is a good time to put this book down and pick up the first book. It's been a long time since I've written this. When you're done with that, you can come back. Don't worry, sweet cheeks, I'll wait. I have all the time in the world. That is, unless Killswitch destroys said world, in which case it won't matter which book you read, because you'll most likely be dead. So what the hell? Throw caution to the wind and continue on with the story. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. Arrgh! The man on the stainless steel lab table was wrenching his arms up in an attempt to break free of the woven Kevlar bindings holding him down. It wouldn't work. There were a few superheroes and supervillains that could break the weft and weave of Kevlar, but no mortal man. not even when the mortal man's very DNA was being toyed with. Dr. Mengele, yes, that Mengele, Killswitch had him cloned. It was very wrong, but what do you expect from a supervillain? Made an adjustment to the brainstem Z serum feed. Making some shit up. He looked at Killswitch. The look would have snapped the sanity of a mere mortal. The look was born of Hitler's regime, where the experiments were not meant to bring new life to dead tissue. Quite the opposite. Death was Mengele's mistress. Mengele, death's bitch. The specimen began convulsing hard. The left hand somehow broke free of the Kevlar strap. The specimen's greenish-brown fingers found purchase on Mengele's neck. The cold hand squeezed the breath from Mengele's lungs. Mengele's own hands desperately reached out to find something, anything, to fend off the immensely powerful grip. His fingers found nothing but air, practically mocking his lungs. Mengele's eyes began to roll back into his head, but before the cold black heart of Joseph's chest could beat its last inhumane beat, the specimen exploded. Sticky fluid and meaty chunks splattered the room as if Jackson Pollock spontaneously combusted while composing his latest work. Splat. Killswitch looked on in disbelief as chunks of liver and spleen slowly slid down the plexiplate window. Another failed attempt at creating what would finally bring down Sentinel. Failure. It wasn't a word Killswitch enjoyed knowing. He wanted the word stricken from his memory. He had no time for failure. And yet, here he was, staring failure in the green goo eyes. Killswitch took several deep breaths, a technique he learned during his last therapy session. What do you think, supervillains don't go to therapy? You've got a lot to learn. Mengele slowly stood and wiped the cadaver slime from his kitschy Nazi goggles. Der Mann ist nicht ein Zombie, Mengele screamed. The veins in his neck bulged as if they were about to explode themselves. Mengele stared around the room, taking it all in. Then he did something Killswitch never expected. He scooped out a handful of gore from the experiment's now open chest, put his hand to his lips, and ate the gore. After licking his hand clean, he then proceeded to bury his face in the hole in the chest of the specimen. Mengele lapped at the cold, dead skin as if he were nothing more than a dog cleaning his own wound. Der Mann ist nicht ein Zombie, Mengele screamed at the top of his lungs. Ich bin ein Zombie! Ich bin ein Zombie! Another clone lost. Killswitch had already gone through 4 Mengele clones. Something had always managed to snap the sanity of the clones. He had hoped this latest would survive to see the end of Killswitch's master plan, but no. Looks like he would have to cook up another clone. Killswitch tapped his comm badge. What, too Star Trek-y for you? Okay, fine. Killswitch tapped the call button on the wall comm panel. Better? Good. See what I mean? Narrator snarky. Send in another cleanup crew. Killswitch left the viewing room, plodded to his office, and immediately picked up the phone. Send Cortex to my office. He hated this. Killswitch had a master plan to undertake. Exploding corpses and babbling, drooling clones would never get him the power he so self-righteously deserved. Killswitch closed his eyes and breathed, and breathed, and breathed. It didn't work. The damned breathing exercises did nothing more than make him lightheaded. Great. On top of all this, I have to now find a new therapist. Before Killswitch could breathe himself into hyperventilation, Cortex entered the office. You wanted to see me? I'm not doing voices today, sorry people. Of course I wanted to see you. If I didn't, would I have sent for you? Killswitch snapped. Killswitch snapped. Cortex just stood in the doorway of the office looking confused. Sorry, I'm under a bit of stress, what with my master plan falling to pieces this very moment. Cortex entered the room and sat down on the early 16th century wingback chair. Lush, posh, sexy. You're expecting a dated reference to the Spice Girls here, aren't you? Well, you're not going to get it. What can I do? Cortex spoke softly. One of Cortex's powers was his ability to calm with his voice alone. Some didn't see it so much as a power, but a gift. Cortex, however, knew how useful the power was in both battle and bed. I need another Mengele. Beta Force snapped. It seemed he nearly had the serum perfected. The specimen was close to reaching full state before it exploded. Killswitch calmly relayed every bit of information he could before sending Cortex to complete his duties. Cortex could retrieve all necessary data from the lab computers. Cortex assured Killswitch the next Mangala would succeed with Operation Zombie. Wah, ha, ha, ha. Cue bizarre, evil techno music. Chapter 2. Ah, young love. Blushing cheeks, sweaty hands, mascara running down faces of men weeping for joy. Such was the case so often with Shero and Fiend. Their friendship had evolved in such short notice, it left everyone with a spinning head, but no one complained. It was as if the two were destined from beginning of time to love one another. The knowing glances and smiles they shared infected all around them, and tonight was no different. Among a small crowd of fellow diners, Shero and Fiend sat at a corner table at their favorite locale. The food was as divine as 5 denier pantyhose. Fiend's bare foot found its way up Shero's fine silk skirt and gently rubbed against said 5 deniers as she played a rousing game of fancy schmancy footsie. Rower. Tell me something you've never told me or anyone. Fiend's eyes glittered in the dim light. Her thoughts were sinister or playful. Shero wasn't sure which. That's a tough one. I do believe I've told you everything about me. Surely there's some little gem you have tucked back in the recesses of your mind. Something, no matter how insignificant. Fiend wants to know. Fiend spoke in the third person, indicating to Shero that she meant business. She sneaked her foot a little further up. She sneaked her foot a little further up Shero's dress to make sure he knew she was serious. Rower, little kitty wants to play. Shero opened his legs just enough to let Fiend's foot slide a little higher. How unladylike. Come on, give me a little something. Little? Do we really need to go there? Shero winked. Okay, here's a little tidbit you probably don't know. The first time I ever had an orgasm involved a really cheap pair of pantyhose. I knew that one already. Okay, let's try again. There's the heat. It's cold down here. Shero reached down deep to find something he knew Fiend couldn't possibly know about him. I got it. Way back in high school, I actually did have one homosexual experience. Fiend sat up a little higher, a little straighter. Oh, do tell. Shero blushed a bit. For a second, he could have passed for a drag queen, but that's not his shtick, so stop thinking it. It wasn't really anything. I mean, it's not like it's going to set your loins afire. But I do likes me some homoerotica. Shero felt a twinge of embarrassment rising like a warm tide from his bowels to his eyes. But he knew, if this relationship was to be founded in truth and trust, he had to tell all. I tell you what, to make this easy on you, I will offer up a gift. Anything you want from my closet for letting me in on this little secret. Fiend winked at Shero. She knew she had him here. Shero coveted her closet, and she knew it. She was just glad he couldn't wear her shoes. Shero smiled at her, but he knew he wouldn't dare raid the closet of closets. But that didn't mean he couldn't make her sweat. I want those one-off Santana open-toed 5-inch heel patent pumps. Fiend was stopped dead in her tracks. The one-offs were a special gift from Santana himself. She had appeared at his request in one of his music videos, clad in a liquid latex catsuit that was so sexy a blind man would get an erection by proxy from the seeing man who happened to lay eyes on her. The one-offs had been worn once and then, in a religious-like ceremony, placed under sealed glass in her closet. She knew she'd wear them again at the right time, but until then they would remain safe from the smudge of human fingerprints and the stink of human toes. Shero picked up on the incredulous reaction, but he wanted to hold out for effect. Hold, hold, hold. Oh, Shero, you are too naughty. Eventually, a giggle escaped from Shero's matte gloss lips. Baby, you know I'd never raid your closet. Your panty drawer, maybe. Your closet, never. Fiend's hand crept across the table and gently touched Shero's fingers. The crest spoke volumes. Not, thank you for taking my prized shoes, but thank you for being you and being you with me. It was me and my best high school buddies. We had somehow managed to come across a key to the high school swimming pool and sneaked in one Saturday night. They had just come out in our tight circle of friends and were pretty sure of themselves. that I played on their team. That night they decided to see how far they could push the boundaries. I let them push. Just a wee bit. Fiend was in silent rapture at the story. There was really something about Chris she didn't know. Chris. Within the silent confines of her mind, Fiend referred to Shero by his actual name. It was a rare occasion used only for significance. Fiend cemented the moment in time, hoping it would never fade from memory. After that night, they both developed a serious case of crush. When it finally dawned on them that I really wasn't gay, they turned their backs on me. I was crushed. I lost my best friends, but I will never forget that moment. Shero paused to take a sip of his drink. Oh, I almost forgot. They bribed me into doing what I did by promising me that they would get a pair of panties that belonged to this girl I had a huge crush on. Fiend laughed out loud. I hope you got the panties. Again, Shero blushed. I did. I don't know if they were actually hers, but they certainly fed some serious fantasies for me. The couple shared a boisterous laugh, but then noticed a number of fellow diners staring at them. Shero wanted to make a snide comment, but knew such behavior was well below the line superheroes did toe. Speaking of which, how are you enjoying your new role as field leader? Fiend fingered her pad key Mao with chopsticks that seemed an extension of her fingers that were as adept with chopsticks as they were with, whoa, this is a family show. I love it. I can't imagine doing anything else. Shero sat up a bit straighter. I was so glad Collision and Vengeance agreed my places in the field and not behind a desk. But you would make the perfect leader of Sentinel. Fiend's eyes took a turn for the serious. Shero turned this over in his head. He had been doing so for months, since the moment both Collision and Vengeance proposed Shero take over the reins of Sentinel. Shero wondered what it would feel like to serve as the head of the group responsible for protecting society from those who would turn against it, as well as from itself. The thoughts always turned back to what Shero loved, battle. This, of course, led Shero to often think of himself selfish. If he is in fact the most logical choice to lead Sentinel, then why did he so vehemently decline? Maybe I'm afraid of failure. Maybe I'm afraid that when the whole society can at one time point their fingers and collectively shame me, I won't be able to remain standing. Or maybe I just can't see Sentinel fighting back the tide of evil and corruption without me on the battlefront. Shero didn't like the way it sounded even as it came out. I know. It sounds crazy, or worse, egomaniacal. But that's understandable. Fiend reached across and placed Shero's polished fingers in hers. You care so deeply about so many. Maybe that's really where you need to focus your thoughts. That incredible concern you have for protecting society will eventually help you realize that you are the best choice of leaders. The couple sat in a shared silence. The conversation could continue on, each tossing possible words and phrases around, hoping to latch onto something significant enough to share and something profound enough to change the mind of the other. Instead, only loving caresses and smiles were shared. It was a perfect moment that nothing could touch. Nothing. Not even the still echoing sounds of Ich bin ein Zombie. Ich bin ein Zombie. Ich bin ein Zombie. You get the point. Chapter 3. Begins superhero-like announcer voice. Meanwhile, back at Sentinel headquarters, end superhero-like announcer voice. Good job. Shero had arrived that morning to business as usual. As his 3-inch stilettos clicked down the halls of Sentinel HQ, he was greeted with salutes and smiles. It felt good to be at home again among the superheroes. Although his exile was only a brief period, it may have well been a lifetime, but now he was back among his friends, his peers, his duties, and his new office. Yes, it is true. With membership comes privilege. And a membership among the elite of this crowd certainly brought privilege aplenty. When he rose to his new position of field leader, he was given a blank slate for an office with which he could run the gamut of decor. Of course, Shero took the classy route. As much as a freak streak many would assume Shero to own, Shero's taste ran more along the A-lines of the Taylors and Spades. Shero is more couture than kitsch. And so his office was adorned with Spartan white walls with pink accents, a tasteful teak wood desk sporting a single flat panel monitor, and the telltale signs of a high-end computer meant for the feminine at heart. His floors were parquet hardwood with white and pink accent rugs. The air was touched with a hint of pumpkin spice that may or may not remind one of autumn evenings and the rustling of dried leaves across pavement. But the closets, yes, plural, were the piece de resistance. The doors of all three, yes, three, would only open by means of fingerprint recognition, much like the door to his office. And when the pocket doors of the closets hissed into hiding, what greeted the viewer would send. Let me try that again. And when the pocket doors of the closets hissed into hiding, what greeted the viewer would send even the most spoiled of princesses into apoplectic fits of jealousy. One closet was dedicated to daywear: skirts, blouses, sweaters, tops, kitten heels, flats. One closet contained naught but evening wear: dresses, wraps, 3-inch plus heels. The final closet contained Shero's business attire. In this case, it was the fiend psionically altered PBDs, perfect black dresses, and 3 to 4-inch heels with titanium reinforced heel shanks, and again, fiend psionically altered carbon outer heels. The dresses and shoes, blah, 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 book, behave. The dresses and shoes could only be worn by Shero. Anyone else would not only look trashy in them, but they would find the fabric slowly constrict their air supply until they came to a slow, blue-faced death. Yet another trick of fiends was to alter the molecular fingerprint of the dress material so that it would react in such a way to anyone's skin but Shero's. It was brilliant and dead sexy. It also ensured that no one would arrive at the party in the same dress as Shero. You go, girl. Okay, that's the only you go, girl you get. Understand? I know, I should have saved it for a more poignant moment, but I figured it would be best to just get it out of the way, and now we can move on. Shero was sitting at his perfectly appointed desk when his comm chimed, alerting him that Vengeance and Collision had arrived. It was nice to have them come to him instead of always having it the other way around. With Didn't we already establish that? I thought so. Anyway, Shero hit the key combination on his keyboard to activate the door open sequence. The slightest click could be heard, followed by the hiss of the door opening. A bit overdramatic with the security, but you never know who could sneak into a superhero headquarters and, I don't know, wreak a certain level of havoc. If you read the first book, you'd get the wink, wink, nudge, nudge there. There is actually a smiley face right there. Yeah, I went there. Come in. Shero stood over the lady. Both Collision and Vengeance took their positions in front of the wingbacks, but refused to be seated until Shero had gently planted himself back into his own chair. Ever the gentleman. Shero smiled at the gesture. He knew not weeks ago the whole gender issue was a crown of thorns under the manly nails of Collision, and his about face was a breath of fresh air, with a hint of cinnamon juniper. So you have some ideas on field assignments that might improve our success rate. We're interested. But before we get back into the thick of that, Collision shifted a bit nervously in his seat, which caused a tiny lump to form in Shero's throat. Certainly, they wouldn't be addressing the dressing again. Certainly not after what they had all been through and how Shero had performed in the past few months. Vengeance and I have been discussing the idea again of you taking over the helm of Sentinel. Collision spoke firmly. Before you say no, hear us out. Vengeance chimed in. Shero nodded his approval for them to continue. I'm sure you're aware there are some heroes that are having a hard time adjusting to... Collision was having his own hard time spitting out his thoughts. A hard time adjusting to me? Vengeance placed a period on the sentence. Thank you, Grammar Police. We knew it wasn't going to be easy for some, but we hadn't expected there to be those who flat out refused to give him a chance to prove himself. But we know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that every single member of Sentinel would lay down their life for you. You have their trust, their loyalty, their respect, and love. Should we cue the sappy music yet? No. It's inevitable that you will someday take over as the leader of Sentinel. We both agree it will be the best thing during a time when chaos isn't threatening to beat down our doors. Vengeance chimed in with a rather sound argument. Shero knew they had a point. There would come a time when he would have to take over the mantle of Sentinel, but that time wasn't now. Shero wasn't ready to give up fighting, and everyone knew he was Sentinel's best. They needed him on the front lines more than anything. I hear what you're saying, and I do agree with you that the time will come, but those heroes aren't ready to go to battle without my help. I can't see another of my friends die like I did. If I step out of harm's way, more will go down, and we cannot afford any more losses. You know that. As much as they hated it, they knew Shero was right. More loss of able bodies would leave Sentinel vulnerable to an attack that might prove fatal. And besides, Sentinel needs something this sexy in battle. Shero tossed off the joke to lighten the mood. The other two men laughed lightly. Before either Collision or Vengeance could say another word, Shero's calm chimed. Shero, I need to see you right away. Fiend's ooey-gooey sexy voice caressed the ears of the men in the office. Oh, how womanly charm held sway over the soul of man. The three sat in a brief silence, taking in the sounds. It was as if a meditative gas was blown into the room. The men were in a trance. Each man was most likely peeling off the clothes of the speaker in their minds. Slowly peeling. Okay, we get it. She's sexy. Before a snarky word could be said, Shero replied, I'll be there right away. Oh, and wear as revealing a hemline as you can stand. I want to see the bottom of those sexy cheeks peeking out from under your skirt. Shero blushed. Obviously, Fiend didn't realize Collision and Vengeance were within earshot. The two men stared at Shero, grins snaking across their faces. If you'll excuse me, gentlemen. Shero could no longer look the men in the eyes. I have to, change. Immediately, the men stood up and bumped into one another. It was the Three Stooges live and in person. Yuck, yuck. Fortunately, Collision and Vengeance made it out of Shero's office without injury. As for Shero, he knew just the skirt to wear to see Fiend. It was a gothy, high-waist corset skirt that had just the perfect hide-and-go-seek hemline, as well as enough attitude to say, I dare you to look. Shero changed in record time and without a single run in his pantyhose, and bolted for Fiend's office. Keep Princess waiting, and Princess might have your head, or give you... I can't believe I just said that. Seriously now. I want to strike that previous sentence. No, not I can't believe. You know the one I'm talking about. Come on, get rid of it. Seriously, you're making me look bad. Okay, fine, keep it. You'll not get another word out of me. Now, I'm going to take a break here because I did something in this book that I'm kind of proud of, that I had the guts to do it. So it ends with, you'll not get another word out of me, by the narrator. The next page has an ellipse. The next page says, seriously, you're getting nothing. The next page says, can't get very far in a book without a narrator, can you? Is that it? Is that all I did? That's all I did. So, yeah, I did that. Okay, we'll call this one a draw. But next time I ask you to remove something, you might want to listen. Now, where were we? Of course, the narrator at that point was talking to me, the writer. Oh, yeah. Shero was running so fast he nearly slid past Fiend's office door. He made a mental note of getting grippier heels. Last thing he wanted was to slip on past his target in battle. His finger made its way to the panel to announce his arrival. Before his finger could press the button, the door hissed open. What he saw dropped his jaw to the floor. Fiend was laying across a workbench wearing nothing but thigh-highs, panties, the sexiest bra he had ever seen, and a smile that said, if you don't take me now, you might as well hand in your manhood. Of course, what really caught Shero's attention was the bright pink box, with an even pinker bow on top, in her hands. You have a choice. You can take what is in this pink box. She held up the small wrapped package. Or you can take what's in this pink box. She pointed elsewhere. And then she smiled. Shero swallowed. As much as he wanted to know what was underneath that beautiful pink ribbon, he was a man after all. Work with me here. Oh, there is no choice here. I want the box. Without the ribbon. It was Shero's turn to Cheshire for Fiend. I like the way you think, my dear. Fiend sat up and slowly crossed her long legs. Meow. So much so you can have both. Fiend giggled fiendishly. You knew it was eventually coming, right? And handed the box to Shero. Open it, open it, open it. Shero gently took the box from Fiend and carefully started unwrapping the surprise. Oh, stop being such a girl. Rip that bitch open. Fiend stood and sauntered up behind Shero. Shero got the package open and pulled out one of the silkiest, sexiest pair of pantyhose he had ever laid his fingers on. Oh my, these are the sheerest. Oh my. If there is a heaven incarnate, it is this glorious pair of nylons. Shero brushed the silken garment across his face. I have never in my life felt a fabric so perfect. Where did you get these? What brand are they? Will you have my baby? I made them. They are called Sheros. Fiend and Shero shared a collective eye roll. It was the best name I could come up with. I don't know how marketable it is, but the name is perfect for me. Shero felt the silken stockings with his fingertips. He gently caressed the fabric. Ann Taylor, hue, oro blue. Let's just say they are the finest hose money could buy with a few of my tricks added to them. Fiend smiled a wicked kitten smile that, had Shero not been currently spending every ounce of drool on his new pantyhose, would have had him slathering at the mouth. They will not, cannot run. They can, and do, stop a blade, as in a knife. The color will not, cannot fade. They are, in fact, one of a kind. Fiend looked at Shero with a didn't I do good look. Oh, baby, for these I will have your baby. Shero picked Fiend up and spun her around. Fiend was practically giggling with glee. Yeah, even superheroes giggle. And with glee at times. Why don't we just call this a thank you for a wonderful dinner and maybe the promise of a repeat offense? Of course. Why not tonight? Oh, I have a fabulous idea. There's a B-movie zombie fest on television. You could come to my place. Fiend squealed. I love zombie flicks. Can we have popcorn? Can I wear my jammies? I have the most delightful jammies with cartoon zombies all over them. You will be jealous. And we can do each other's nails. Shero added his own squeal. The two continued squealing like two pillow-fighting schoolgirls. Okay, that just conjures up the wrong idea. But we'll stick with it because the sound is unmatched with any other in nature's wild kingdom. So meet me at my place, say 8 o'clock sharp. Shero said as he was heading out of Fiend's office, pantyhose in hand. I'll be early. Have the popcorn popped and your jammies on. I wear teddies to bed, Shero winked. Ouch! Fiend grabbed her hard as she gulped. Shero got the idea. He left much lighter on his heels than he was when he arrived. Ain't love grand? Chapter 4. Meanwhile, in the heart of anarchy... Damn, that sounds sinister. Killswitch was seated at his desk, still fuming about the failure of yet another Mengele clone. This time, there was no losing of the Nazi clone mind. No splashing of gore, no Ich bin ein Zombie. In the case of Mengele 4, the clone stopped his work, calmly grabbed a bone saw, and lopped off the top of his own head. It was peaceful, in a strange way. The look on the clone's face seemed to say, Mein Führer, I'm coming to be by your side. Killswitch looked on not so much in shock, but in disbelief, and Mengele 4 did a wacky pop dance to the floor. The cadaver on the blood and brain-spattered surgical table lay motionless, like a two-board housewife underneath her overweight, unattractive husband as he pumped, and I think I just made myself nauseous. But that was then. And then when it seemed as if the cause was lost, when anarchy was going to have to come up with yet another uber-sinister plan to smack the smug, we're more super than you look off the face of Sentinel. Sentinel? What kind of name is Sentinel anyway? Killswitch growled to the stifling air around him. Fear not, citizens, we stand Sentinel to protect. No, that's lame. The leader of anarchy stood atop his industrial post-war desk, his hands on his hips, his chest puffed up and out. Citizens of Earth, we are the Sentinel of Safety, here to protect you from the massively powerful Killswitch and anarchy. We know you fear them as you have never feared any other collection of super villainous power. Killswitch. The door to the leader's office was flung open, allowing Dementia to enter unannounced. As soon as Dementia caught sight of Killswitch's 1940s-era Superman pose, he broke out in gales of laughter. Killswitch remained on his desk, his anger rising to a slow, steady boil. Dementia stopped, laughing for a split second, long enough to get another look at Killswitch. As soon as the two men made eye contact, the guffaws began anew. Is there something you find particularly humorous, Dementia? Dementia was about to unleash yet another round of glorious mockery when he caught sight of the "I will kill you" look on the face of his leader. A bitter silence blanketed the office. Kill switch. One serious fun sucker. The leader of Anarchy remained standing atop his desk, as if to challenge Dementia. The two supervillains locked eyes in an attempt to stare down one another. With the rank and file of Anarchy, there really was only one member afforded such privileges as to stare off with the sole leader of the baddest group of bad guys and gals on the planet. That member was Dementia. Dementia was Anarchy's lead evil scientist. And yes, the capital evil was correct. Dementia was a member in good standing of the Enclave of Vile, Insipid Lunatics. The acronym really didn't do the group justice. Although it was commonly assumed that evil was nothing more than lunatics, the membership consisted of some of the most brilliantly twisted minds on the planet. And all of those deranged men and women suffered from the same wanton desire to defeat good at all costs. Now, evil was made up of a number of subgroups. One of those subgroups was the evil scientists. That is where Dementia stood as lord, sole educator, and baker of some very special brownies served at all evil meetings. Who said supervillains couldn't be domestic? Martha Stewart, eat your heart out. No, seriously, eat it. Just dig that 4-inch Wusthof paring knife in your chest, make a nice scalloped edge circle out of your flesh and bone, reach in, pull that still beating heart out, and dine on some good old heart tartare. I think that's a pretty good place to stop, don't ya? I don't know how long this is, but hopefully it was long enough so that you, my friends, could completely ignore the inauguration of he who shall not be named. Look, I know it's going to be a really rough 4 years for a lot of people. And the inclination is to kind of hide away and avoid everything. But the truth is, this is our country. And we love our country. I love our country. I know you love our country. And we have to be there for it. We have to defend it. We have to fight for it. We have to make sure those in power understand that they serve us. We don't serve them. And so, during these next 4 years, you might have an inclination to tune everything out. But I would say, as much as you can, pay attention. Because there are some very, very wonderful people out there who are truly afraid for what's going to happen to them. I know some of them. I've talked to some of them. And my heart breaks for them. So I know that this was a few minutes of your day to maybe laugh and forget about what's going on. But pretty soon we're all going to have to pay attention. We can't ignore it until it's gone, because at that point it may be too late. Anyway, thank you for sharing a little time with me. I know your time is precious, and I know that, well, this is a dark day for the country as we kind of see the doors of oligarchy open up before us. Anyway, I'm not going to go any deeper in that, but just know that I appreciate you and I love you. I'm here for you, and we have to have each other's backs. Thank you very much, and I hope that you and everyone you know and love have a wonderful, wonderful day.